Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 93rd episode of our first YouTube run through the House of Light expansion for Book of Hours. I really need to find a faster way to say that. So we have started to read a few more books than I was expecting, but overall it's a good thing. It will be reducing the number of books that I have on my to-read list, which is absolutely massive. And then we also got lucky with the rain. So the big priorities right now will be leveling up Drums and Dances and leveling up Inks of Revelation. After that, I can maybe make a few more decisions in terms of where I put some of my other resources. I expect that I will have some surpluses in terms of lessons, but we're sort of at the point right now where maybe I want to just focus on this little subset of activities. And I've already sort of made my notes in terms of some future moves. But I think right now this is a decent little core to work with. And then I talked a bit in the previous episode about what my overall plans are. But one of the things I didn't mention was there will probably be a few leftover lessons. And so I'll maybe take a minute and see how I can angle those towards particular objectives that I'm looking for. So we're almost done on a few of these timers, so let's unpause and see where they go. Okay, Ambrosial. Ambrose Westcott's inventive, one might say pioneering or indeed buccaneering essays into kitchencraft. Westcott proudly announces his intention to transform cuisine to become an engine of alchemy, a fount of war. Westcott compares the ferocity of fire with the intensity of appetite as in essence one essence. A fire's ability to transform and destroy grows when it is offered the correct fuel. So too, he implies, can a sufficiently inspired appetite allow its possessor to consume greatly, strangely, unwisely. Now originally this was going to be going into making a Hive's Lament, but I might be able to get by without generating that. We'll see where it goes. Perugian Diaries. In 1907, at the age of 18, Christopher Olopoli left Strathcoyne's household to study theology at the University of Perugia in Italy, enrolling under the name Christopher Strathcoyne. For 4 years since his adoption from a Bristol orphanage, Olopoli served as Strathcoyne's pupil and protege, but his relationship with this austere and secretive man was always complicated. His journal confides, "I still think Fraser's intentions are good, certainly he agrees, but I never understood the final goal of his investigations. He was never prepared to enlighten me, and good intentions or not, I can no longer bear the stream of eyes. We have agreed to part, almost amicably." Olopoli left Perugia in 1909 without completing his degree. He had long lost interest in his studies, and the latter half of his journal is concerned with his studies of Umbrian folk songs and notes towards his own compositions, which are of widely varying quality. One of the better ones, In the Marshes of Night, suggests he visited the site of Old Lake Fucinus near Ortuccio. So that's 3 of the 6 that we'll need to level up Drums and Dances. Glimmerings, an anonymous prison diary written by a dreamer convicted of oniric irresponsibility and confined to the cucurbit. The prisoner is plainly terrified and bewildered by their situation, and has been unable to wrangle a coherent explanation out of anyone, but the dreams keep coming, and they keep writing them down. Snow, broken mirrors, half-heard sky music, flowers of white, red, and black, a blood-streaked winter dawn, the most notorious signifiers of oniric risk, fantastically vivid and detailed. No wonder they were locked up. Their final recorded dream is of a worm jewel beneath Brankrug Isle, which they open with a key carved from their finger bone. So that one's going to go to Inks of Revelation. So basically we're halfway on both of them, although the Thunderskins Paean in about 30 seconds will bring me to 4 of the required 6. So I think probably my best bet here would be to read a book that would get me So we've got the Nectar already. So in this case, we'll maybe do the Storm and the the Storm and the Solace. Oh, but I've already used up a few scene text, so. And sort of following the principle that I applied before, well, I'm trying to think, would it make sense for me to try and get the other 2 lantern texts now? In one sense, yes, but we do actually have a few other texts which are going to be giving me memories, so I think I will just accept the inefficiency of not immediately following up on this stuff. And I'm just going to match that with the fact that Denzel might surprise us. Turns out that was the right call. So I don't recall what From History to Eternity gives me, but there's a really good chance that it might actually... there's a really good chance that it might give me the memory that I need to level up Inks of Revelation without having to do anything else. Alright, with Keeper Level Heart, the paean is a precursor to Swaddled Thunder. Thunderskin's Paean, a song of joyful sacrifice. I was talking about comparisons, so Ascendant Harmony is a higher level one, but it looks like the Cheerful Ditty. Thunderskin's Paean does have the little sparkling on it and the sort of the jagged edges in between, but still the same notes. Okay, so another revelation. He does a lot with silence, this man. So I suppose the good news is we know that we'd made the right call with Drums and Dances. We'll have the two memories coming out in just a minute. Better now. So we'll still earn something with the Shapt. Okay. So, Deaths and Their Evasions. Father Stanislav John Schaller writes of the means and limitation of passage between the orders of the Mansus. No long names, hours. Unusually, Father John has written this book in Fusine, for, he says, especial secrecy. He speaks very cautiously of the exceptions that can sometimes be made to the edicts of Chancel and Calyptra, and hints at the means by which he successfully returned a lantern long to flesh. Schaller mentions most cautiously of all that he has been permitted to see a book that speaks more deeply on the matter, but that it was surrendered into the shadow of a covenant stone of the Watchman's Tree. It can be retrieved if the 99th wink is reserved under the edict's liminal. So, Stolen Secrets, welcome. There's my edict's liminal. I don't believe I have a shelf for Stolen Secrets yet. Now, this one's a little bit of a mixed, kind of a mixed result, for the simple reason that Stolen Secrets are helpful, but they are actually something that I could get from from one of the visitors, or from an assistant rather. So Denzel or Mr. Kill might give them. It's a bit of a rarer one, but it's one that I always feel a little. I feel a little uncertain about it, just simply because, you know, it always feels bad if you, like, you know, if it's on the margin, right? You have that one element of the soul and you got to decide between one or the other. You know, it'll be, that one's rare enough that you don't want to rely on it. But on the other hand, if you read a book and then it's the very next thing that you get, you sort of shake your fist. So, but that's going to come up no matter what. All right, Sacralumea, the rights of an wrong entry. From History to Eternity, a contraband manual of the Inks of Revelation. The author explains in a brief foreword that she is a high-ranking officer of an agency of the duties, and that though she supports its mission, she has concerns about the long-term consequences of its work. All histories braided into a golden loop, a shining ascent to eternity. I never imagined I could be afraid that there might be too few truths. I could be wrong, but I'd like to leave at least one door ajar. Ichor Auroral can be brewed into an Incastum Terminale associated with the second history, using Inks of Revelation techniques with rose aspect. The author warns that this is exceptionally difficult, since these techniques aren't aligned with rose. But that's why I'm hoping the door will stay ajar, even once all the others are closed. I wish you luck. So, more Inks of Revelation lessons, and that got me an intuition, which oddly enough does not help me with Inks of Revelation. So, I just checked. Yeah, right here. So a little inconvenient, but I will make this work. Let's go to Natan's desk. And I will... So can't do revelations, can't do foresight. Probably the impulse makes the most sense at this point. Okay, Apollo and Marsyas, the libretto of a lost opera concerning the contest between Apollo and Marsyas and its tragic outcome. The librettist is identified only by their initials. In the original myth, Marsyas lost the musical contest and was flayed by Apollo, who later regretted it. In this version, Marsyas' skin has a further history. The skin of Marsyas gives oracles and is later smuggled to Phrygia, where the priestesses of Cybele use it for a drum. At the climax, the striking of the drum drives would-be violators of the priestess to suicidal madness. The opera ends with a wistful hymn from the youngest priestess on the beauty of mountain pines. And Traveling at Night Volume 2, the annotated dream journals of Christopher Olopoli, sometimes called the only readable occultist. Literate, entertaining, bewildering. There is an extensive discussion of the comparisons between Olopoli's own dreams and those of the Emperor Elagabalus, who Olopoli regards as a dupe or avatar of the sun in rags. The white is west of the world, Olopoli remarks, and winter does not wait forever. Elagabalus found his way to the White Door at last, thankfully. Speech can't pass the White Door, and honestly, Elagabalus never had anything very interesting to say. I tried to follow in his footsteps, but I never learnt enough of the white. I suppose I'm thankful for that too, but here's what I do know. Okay. So we will start with the drums and dances. That's the more difficult of the two. I did have the option of using the core, but I figure I'll do the health this time around. When I thought I had understood, I'd only begun. Improve the skill to level 7. So next up, we will take Inks of Revelation. Now, if I'm feeling very bold, I can actually use Weaving and Not Working and Inks of Revelation to level up the Edicts Liminal as well. I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that. But here's what I am going to do. This will be a little tedious for a few of you just because I've done this a couple of times. But I'd like to... I'd kind of like to renew my check-in on the curses and other afflictions. So the witchworms, which need winter. Ugh. Sorry, tablet trouble. Okay, so there was one witchworms. There's Chionic Theoplasma. That one is a heart... What? Oh, okay. We have 2 Fifth Eye curses. And then there was a note here about a nectar corruption, but I think we've already dealt with that. That's actually good to know, because that takes off some of the pressure on herbs and infusions. Okay, so I didn't do a good enough job of taking a note of the various skills that I'm working on. So, one's got to deal with curse, one's got to deal with theoplasma, and one's got to deal with an infestation. Okay. So, right. So one of the problems that we run into with the curses is that we have something that'll handle curses, but we don't have something that is heart and can handle curses. So I believe we were going to wait for a storm on that, if I recall correctly. Now for... oh, here we go for theoplasma. So quenchings and quellings is my heart. Okay. So that one, so funnily enough, that one technically could also be a storm. But if I take a core, so that'll give me 5, and then I just need something with 2 heart, and I'm good to go. So I don't even really need to worry about... Actually, yeah, I really just need something with 1 heart. But that's good. Okay. And then the witchworms, I sort of feel like I had an idea about what I wanted to do with them, but I don't think I ever actually wrote it down. So it can't be stone stories. Oh, for heaven's sake. Okay, I got this wrong. Okay, so I do actually need a nectar corruption, so... Somewhere on my list it says that I have 5 curses. I'm gonna have to double check this. All right, but I'm pretty sure it's herbs and infusions. Yep. Okay. Okay, so once more with feeling. 7 winter. For something that kills the witchworms. I was just checking something and then I've lost it. Interesting. Yeah, so none of these have a winter. Bad luck for me, but I guess the answer to that is the Wormwood Dream. So, Serenity of the Blackwood, those who do not sleep, Lion in the Glass, and in the mountains as upon the plain, there may not be a path where none has passed. So am I going crazy here? Did I not see that there was a heart theoplasma? I'm sure I'll find it eventually. Anyways, I won't change the note, but okay, so herbs and infusions is back on the list. So I'm actually going to take the time to work out how I want to handle these. So for Keeper Skin, in terms of the basics that I have to work with, so we have 1 nectar from health. Now, the other thing that I don't put enough weight on is that I don't actually just have 1. I have 2 nectar from the bronze knife. So that gives me 3 to work with. The one memory I can rely on is impulse. Until I get an earth sign, I don't want to rely on the rain. So 1 for memory, which brings me up to 4. So that would mean the last thing that I have to work with would be herbs and infusions, which gives me 2, which leaves me for the 6 of the 7 that I need. So actually, oddly enough, had I used the rain to remove the curse, that would have been enough. But I think in this case, we can easily say that weaving and not working is a good use of herbs and infusions. Now, I am going to need to generate some more heart out of that. Maybe we'll wait a little bit longer, but I think I'll actually add that to my list. So one more level in herbs and infusions. That will help me remove a corruption from a book, at which point we can decide to deal with the witchworms whenever we want. I mean, the witchworms effectively boils down to whether or not I want to blow the wormwood dream, and I'm not quite at that point yet, but I will get there on a less crowded day. So I'm not even going to worry about the witchworms. So the last one is the Fifth Eye Curse. This one's a bit weird. So in this case here, I would start with 2 metal. But I only have the mortar and pestle or the square or whatever. So that leaves me with 3, just like the Keeper Skin. Now the problem on this one is that the skill doesn't actually get me anything. I should maybe take a look and see whether or not there is a... I should see whether or not there's something that I can use to... or if there is such a skill, or if the Fifth Eye Curse is just the one that makes you very sad. So the problem out of this one is that the way I'm looking at this right now, so we'll use Ambrose's desk as an example. We've got our soul, so that'll get me 2. The skill that we have right now would just be one that I throw in that deals with curses, but doesn't have a forge. The papers would require the book. So I have one of 2 options available to me. I either need to find a memory which has got 4 forge, and I think even on a good day I have trouble finding that. I'd actually need to have a think about it, because that may actually be something that only Newman give me. The other option would be to find an ink that gives me forge, and the thing that makes me wince a little bit about that one is that could just be the Orpiment Exultant. I actually don't recall, unless it lets me put it in the... yeah. I don't recall if there is another 4G ink. Yeah, the Houndskull is a nice 5 scale. The Ashertine is a lantern one. And again, I could experiment and try and find, because every once in a while I get surprised, right? Like I keep forgetting that Peribiot has a winter aspect, for instance. And usually if you've got a black ink, you tend not to associate it with lantern and such. So again, there's room to sort of be surprised by things. But yeah, it's just one of these cases where I need to try and find a better path than what I'm currently on. The other thing that I'm trying to think if there's another way around this. As far as I can tell, you can only remove curses at desks. And this is because any book... Well, actually, let's just take a cursed book as an example. So we've got the Sky, we've got Fifth Eye Curse, we've got Readable, Thing, Dawn Period, the Subject, Codex, Tally Price, and Language. So the thing that makes it available at a desk is the fact that it's readable. But the problem is I don't believe readable applies to any of the other areas. So it should be the Shrine to the Madrigad. So, right, we've got all of these options, but none of these are going to be related to reading. The one possible exception would have been for some of these areas here, except that they use blank. They don't use readable. So what this means is that the best place for me to remove that curse would be something like Ambrose's desk. Not exclusively, but it's, you know, I don't have access to Collar's desk yet. But that does mean that I either need to use the Orpiment Exultant, which is obviously quite precious, or I need to find a high-powered forge memory, and that's not the sort of thing that I can wait for the weather for. The other alternative, too, is leveling up metal, but of course that puts me at risk when the Salons come, so I'm not quite ready to do that, although again, it depends on how we feel during the day. There's a couple of other options that I have. When it comes to the... Actually, you know what? I'm wondering if I can do something sneaky here. So I would make a guess if I did the lion and the glass, and I added a metal. Oh yeah, the foresight actually will help me out here. Yeah. Doesn't... Or am I... Heart? You idiot. Unbelievable. Why the hell did I think it was Forge? Okay. So it really is... Oh boy. All right. So it really is that easy. So yeah, that's just a question of a storm. I mean, okay, let's do this properly, because I should actually leave myself something useful here. So core instead. Now, I suppose if I'm feeling like I want to maximize my opportunities here, yeah, the Catwink doesn't do the trick, but at the very least, the Peribiot should help me out. I just had some. So, I mean, I'll say 1 for a tool right now, but technically we could bring that up to 4. And I guess at that point, we really just need 3 with heart. Which would mean we could take care of a gale. Okay. The other thing that I should be aware of... Oh, wait, no, Vac. Sorry, I was thinking Fusine would give us the heart. All right. I mean, this was a little clowny, but I do have a game plan for this now. So back to the task at hand. So we've got our Inks of Revelation on the way. Because I would like to see herbs and infusions go up. I guess we only really need 2 memories for that. And I can actually see myself waiting for Denzel on that. So, do I want to try and move up Edicts Liminal? Hard to argue, given that we already have the Stolen Secret. So I guess we're technically fighting a little bit with the... for the Moth. But this one should be fairly straightforward, so if we only need 3 more, let's say we take our Tryst. I should do this from top to bottom just so I don't get lost. So again, we're looking for Knock and Moth, although definitely priority to Knock in this case. I think I just read Advice on Containment before, so Other Eye of the Serpent. So that's 2 of the required 4. And that, unfortunately, kind of shuts me down. No, that doesn't, because we've also got the salt. Man, impulse is a real bottleneck. Okay, something for me to consider for the future, but we'll do To a Pale Lady. And is there any other sneaky way that I can get a knock in here without trying to generate some moth? I think the best way for me to do this is just say the memories that I generate. So Forge and Lantern, Moth and Nectar, Grail and Rose, Lantern, Moon and Rose, Winter and Scale, Winter and Forge, Rose, Sky and Moon, Forge and Knock, Edge and Scale, Edge and Moon, Heart and Sky, Heart and Grail, Heart and Sky, Grail and Sky, Knock and Moon, but we already have it. Winter and Lantern, already have the salt, Heart and Sky, and that's it. I'm just trying to think if there's a... I don't think I can get the... if I use the consider verb, I can get a cite for Inks of Revelation. So that'll take me 30 seconds, but that's going to be how I handle that one. So the impulse will go into leveling up Edicts Liminal. And hindsight doesn't get me anything. And sorry, I do apologize for this one being a little bit more of a consideration broadcast, especially because a couple of those things I'd already taken some time to think about. But unfortunately, if it isn't written down or if the writing isn't legible, I wind up having to do it over again. I am feeling pretty good about this approach, though. The skill is now level 7. Its power aspects have also increased. So, for this one, I'm going to take a second and look at a painting. Investigate the object. You won't use this up or consume it by doing this. And I know we're over time. I do want to make sure that the 30 seconds is taken. I do want to make sure that this little roadblock is handled before I wrap up for tonight. So he's done a lot with... he does a lot with silence, this man. Speak to Denzel. He might even reply. So I was also thinking about maybe trying to use Denzel to open up a room or two, but I don't know. I think I went a little crazy with some of the books, and I'm happy that I did. But it did leave me to feel like I wanted to try and do a couple of other things with the day. So, The Most Sorrowful End of the Lady Nona, an unauthorized account of the death of Abbess Nona, written by Eusebia, one of the two sisters accused of having murdered Nona through poisoning and arts unsanctioned. Eusebia, awaiting execution, intends to hide this account in her cell. Nona has introduced Eusebia to an unsanctioned Thunderskin cult which meets in the caves below the abbey. There, she and others perform sacred dances for the preservation of the kingdom. Eusebia claims that Nona asked her and another sister to prepare her a lethe draught, which can be brewed from another beverage with herbs and infusions techniques and a sufficient quantity of nectar. For a rite, all three of them would perform below the abbey. By the way, this is another reason to level up herbs and infusions. Lethe's pretty good. Something goes awry. Nona is possessed of a tenebrous spirit, and the Abbey Brethren are forced to quell her with star iron. The other two are implicated as scapegoats, Eusebia implies, although she acknowledges her fault also. Right, so that's actually going to head down to preliminal meter now. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. All right, so I think it might be time for me to think about yeah, so herbs and wait a minute. Yeah, no. Herbs and infusions, I think for this one, I'm just going to generate the 2 heart memories. I don't need to get too clever about that one. So that's going to go straight into herbs and infusions there. I'll actually move that up so the order stays put. And then in 1.2 seconds, The Watcher, another of Valentine's paintings, a barn owl he nursed back to health. Owls, of course, are associated with the horned axe, but only one with one of her blades. So there's the site, which I'm now using for Inks of Revelation. And actually what I'll do here, because we are a bit late, I'm going to queue everything up for Inks of Revelation. And I'm going to get that into position too. So there's no advantage to me holding out, or to giving up the tryst here. So satisfying to have come so far. So this is nice. This will start me on the journey with Ithistry. For Edicts Liminal, I think keeping the shaft aside makes the most sense there. And we will use the core. Okay, so core, tryst, and shaft are the ones that I'm going to use to level up skills. And actually, I'll do this in the correct order as well. So shaft is going to be what we use to level up Edicts Liminal. Core is going to be what I use for these heart texts I just started to read with weaving and not working. So why do I think the tryst is going to get used for something? I don't know, but I do have 3... So actually this is also worth mentioning here. Unless something happens with Denzil, my tryst and metal will not be sufficient to level up Inks of Revelation or Edicts Liminal on their own. This of course doesn't mean that they're useless, it just means that I'm potentially going to want to come up with another use for my Elements of the Soul for today. But at the end of this, we've got a clear path in terms of what we want to do with Edicts Liminal. I have a freebie with Inks of Revelation. So one thing that I would be able to do with Inks of Revelation if I was so inclined is I could actually level up Sacra Solis Invicti with it. Debatable as to whether or not I want to, but it is an option that's available to me. And from there, we start working down some of the different texts that we have. So as far as the debate of the 7 cups is concerned, Sacra Lamea has kind of demonstrated I should be able to do that right away. That in turn is going to allow me to level up solutions and separations. I believe we can get to level 4 off of that. And then Unhatched Hymns was more so... that was so I could get Sacra Solis Invicti up. That's not necessarily a top-tier priority right now. I actually also think I'm a little short on my Lantern. I think probably my Inks of Revelation is going to be the highest on that, but I think we were able to work that out. So yeah, we'll definitely have something. I can probably get all that done tomorrow if I play my cards right. But I think after that, we'll probably start thinking about the next batch of books that I want to read. Of course, all of that happens in tomorrow's episode and beyond. So thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Take care.